I challenged myself to create an entire short film from scratch in under 30 days, to find new processes and to prove that sometimes we don't need big budgets to tell powerful stories. So I decided to document this process to show you my plan, my vision, and the tools that I used to make the film. But this isn't just about the AI. Can I craft something with emotional depth, a consistent visual style, and a narrative impact using this totally different process? Hi, I'm Claudio, and I've spent over 15 years directing and producing animated films, series, and campaigns for global brands across industries. In this video, I'll take you through the entire journey, from concept to final output, the tools I used, the breakthroughs, the setbacks, and everything in between. And by the end, I would like you not only to watch the film, but to see the results it led to, what we learned, and the unexpected opportunities this challenge unlocked. Here's a quick high-level overview of how it all came together technically, in case you just want to see how it was done. After finalizing the script, I created a rough storyboard to map out the main sequences and shot list, organizing the daily tasks and structuring the full 30-day production timeline. I then designed the characters in Photoshop, quick sketches to capture tone and personality. Using ChatGPT, I transformed these into structured character profiles and prompts for Midjourney, refining style direction and consistency. I also asked it to generate an image of the character based on the claymation style I wanted. Those will serve as style reference for Midjourney. In Midjourney, I generated initial images using keywords like handcraft claymation, stop motion, and 3D CGI rendering. Once I settled on the look, I used the edit features to expand each image into a full-body version and upscale it for further use. These were then brought into Photoshop to refine details, fix any visual errors, and remove the backgrounds. Once finalized, I took the characters into Sora with a green screen background and generated the 360-degree turntables to capture them from multiple angles. Backgrounds were also generated in Midjourney, sometimes referencing the characters to keep the visual language consistent. I then composed characters and backgrounds in Photoshop to build the initial frame of each shot. For video generation, I tested the same prompts across multiple platforms and found that Kling and Runway ML delivered the most consistent and usable results for the style I was aiming for.
Sick of the endless walking and the stones others threw along the way, John followed the strange figure.
For complex shots, I trained Loras using FluxGym, which gave me more control over style and character consistency. I also test alternatives like OpenArt.ai or Design. The idea was to take all the keyframes produced in Photoshop from a scene and train the model on that specific visual language. Then, when generating a prompt like a gnome and a weary traveler on a rugged dirt road, it would associate those characters and environments with the trained style, which improved consistency across scenes. That said, I still had a lot of manual cleanup in Photoshop, like replacing ads, fixing proportions, and adjusting layers, but overall, this approach turned out to be one of the most effective ways to maintain a visual consistency throughout the film. I also experimented with image to 3D tools like Hunyuan and Tripo 3D. These were especially useful for generating quick 3D versions of props like the tent or Big Bob's pushcart. Starting from a single image, I could then screenshot or render different angles and include them in the style training process to improve consistency. In terms of audio, I started with the temporary voiceover in Eleven Labs. For sound design, we relied on sound libraries and custom editing. And I also used the sound effects tools from Eleven Labs. Final post-production was done in After Effects and Premiere, stitching everything together, adding effects, transitions, and color correction. It's important to mention that the film was made early this year, and some of the tools have significant updates, which now make it much easier to do consistency, better generations. But I think all the creative workarounds I had to research and find made it more fun for the entire process. So let's start with story. So we are adapting a story by Jordan Peterson, and it's a short story with a very deep meaning. It's about a gnome who sells a jewel to a traveler. And after some digging, I found an old clip of Jordan Peterson telling that story.
Little gnome said, "I have a shiny red jewel that I would like to sell you." For beneath his cloak, he pulled the biggest ruby that the man had ever seen.
So I adapt this into a script, I infuse it with my own ideas, and this led to the foundation of the film. With the first version of the script, I sent it to ChatGPT, where it improved story arcs, dialogues, and correct English. Basically, from there, I went to 11 Labs, where it generated a preview voiceover or a guide voiceover, and that voiceover is used to map out timings for the animations. So the biggest challenge in this film, like many other AI films, was consistency in both video and image generations. And honestly, it was a battle. 4 long weeks, countless late nights, and for a while it just wasn't looking good. Wasn't until I was halfway through the film that things start to click. That's when I began to understand the tools better, and I had to go back and redo the first half of the film completely. Very far from perfect, but you learn that you get better consistency with intention. This means that if you can clearly see the scene in your head, the composition, feeling, rhythm, it becomes much easier to guide AI toward it. From there, it's about getting creative with your edits, your workarounds, your problem solving. A lot of these I had to fix faces, replace ads later. I just have some characters that weren't in the same style, and the more we learn about film, art, cinematography, photography, the more equipped we are to fix things AI gets wrong. Just look at what I found. No spoiler if you didn't watch the film just yet. It was a Sunday morning run when this idea hit me. What if I added 2 more characters to give it more depth, more meaning? There's a transitional scene in the film about missed opportunities. In the original story it was simple, but I think we can make it more symbolic. So that's where Big Bob and Scarlet came in. Bob represents work, craft, and stability. Scarlet stands for wisdom, spiritual growth, and a potential love. Adding them made things more complicated. More dialogue, more visual design, and the challenge of keeping everything stylistically consistent. But in the end, they brought emotional weight, in my opinion, to the story, showing what the main character could lose without even realizing it. Now, no more spoilers. Here's the film to the bones. Enjoy.
Are we still chasing the dream, or just carrying the weight of it? This is the story of John, a man with big dreams. He set out on a long and difficult journey. The road to greatness was lonely, until he stumbled on something peculiar.
Hey there! John! Why work so hard? Why walk so fast? Who knows if you'll even make it? Come with me. I've got something to show you.
Sick of the endless walking and the stones others threw along the way, John followed the strange figure.
John, come look at this. A jewel beyond compare. It's enchanted, my friend. Yours for a price.
It's beautiful. I don't have much money, but I'll give all that I have. I could even pay more later.
Fair enough. Buy now, pay later. A deal's a deal.
At first, John was thrilled with his purchase. The jewel glowed with an otherworldly light, and he couldn't wait to show it off. But as the days passed, he realized it was far heavier than he had expected. The more he carried it, the more it slowed him down. Yet even so, John could not bear to part with it.
Didn't expect to see anyone camped out here. Thought I was the only fool on this road.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe there's more of us.
I'm heading to the settlement up north. There's a place where travelers trade knowledge, stories, books, things worth remembering. What about you? Where are you headed?
I haven't thought past this spot.
Roads don't always tell you where they're going either. You could come with me if you wanted. You look like someone with stories to share.
I need to take care of my jewel.
If you change your mind, the settlement isn't far. Maybe I'll see you there.
I thought this road was only for the folks on the move.
Look, isn't it magnificent? A jewel beyond compare.
It's nice. I'll tell you what, I need help and you look like a man who can take care of things. Pays good, warm meals, and better company. Work with me and I'll promise you won't regret it.
I couldn't possibly leave my jewel unattended. It needs me. Maybe later?
Okay, fair enough. But things that don't move collect dust. Farewell. Many came and went, and years passed. John even found one or two friends, but they didn't stay long. It was most odd, but nobody seemed to notice how big and beautiful his ruby was. Why are you standing there like a fool, clutching that ugly rock? I bet you wish you had a jewel like mine.
You're the one carrying a rock. I have the jewel. I bought it from the gnome years ago. It's mine.
You're mistaken. The gnome sold me the jewel. It's the only one. I've been carrying it for 20 years.
Quit your bickering, you fools. You've all been carrying rocks. If you'd ever put them down, you'd have seen the truth. But I feel bad. Let me give you what you really deserve. Do you want it?
Blinded by greed, they obeyed. But the rocks fell to the ground and split open, releasing a torrent of pale, ravenous worms that surged towards the men and consumed them whole. And so, the gnome took what was left of them. Are we still chasing the dream, or just carrying the weight of it?
I just want to say that the results of this 30-day challenge totally surprised me. What started as a personal experiment ended up getting a nice response on YouTube, in Facebook groups, and beyond. The film was selected by international festivals and even won awards. That buzz opened new doors. We started exploring much more complex integrations of AI into our 2D and 3D workflows. And here is the wildest part. The story that inspired this film came from a short parable Jordan Peterson once told, and I'll be meeting him in January. So I feel like the stories come full circle. And I set out to do this alone, but it would only be possible with human help. In the final 24 hours, Patricia stepped in to polish sound design while I was finishing music. Otherwise, I would not be able to finish in time. And the AI voices weren't working, so I brought in Christopher Romas. Big shout out to Christopher. His voice performances saved every male character. And to Tatiana, who stayed up with me night after night offering feedback when scenes weren't working, thank you. And to you, let me know in the comments, is this film a RWBY or just an AI generated rock with no value? I would love to know your thoughts, and if you like this type of content, please subscribe and we'll keep working on new stories.